your goals. Pick a talk only about what you want. Greater financial results, better relationships, better health. Think about those three things for the next 24 hours, and as you do, you start to change your way of thinking. Discipline yourself not to become angry or upset. Just think about what you want and how to get it. And this brings us to our next session, which is really fun, and we talk about focal point thinking for high achievement. Now, many years ago, I began a coaching program for business owners, and I called it the Focal Point Program on Coaching, and Mentoring. And what I did is I brought people together once every 3 months for 8 to 9 hours, and I would put them through a series of very intensive exercises. And my promise to them was that at the end of a year, 4 full days, 90 days to apply your action commitments from the day. At the end of the year, you would double your income and double your time off. And people said, and if you don't, there's no charge. You have your money back. And I never had to give a refund. Everybody doubled their income and doubled their time off. And so I would start off by telling a story, which is going to be the story that runs through the rest of our day together. Is that once upon a time, there was a large nuclear energy plant, electrical energy plant, that was suffering severe mechanical problems. And power generation was down by about 40%. I had a nuclear engineer come up to me once and said, do you know how much that would cost a plant of average size? I said, no. He said, about $1 million a day in lost revenue from energy generation. Because in energy generation, you cannot save it up. You have to generate it and sell it simultaneously. If you don't have it, you can't replace it. It's like a hotel room. If it's not rented out, you can't save it up and rent it the next day. So the people in the plant were really, really concerned about this, and they did everything possible to find the problem, and they couldn't find it. This plant was so complex, cost about $6 billion. There were so many valves and gauges and pipes, massive control room, hundreds of controls. So finally they called in an expert, and they brought in the expert, and the expert came out, and he was an expert in nuclear power plants, and he put on a white smock like a doctor, took up a clipboard, and began walking around this large plant, taking notes and asking questions and looking at some of the technical reports from previous work that they had done. And he did this for about 2 days. And at the end of 2 days, he said, aha, that's the problem. He got up on a ladder and he put a big black X on one of the gauges. He said, this is the problem. He said, if you replace this apparatus, the whole plant will be back to full power. Thank you very much. He put down his clipboard, took off his smock, got in his car, and drove back to the airport to go home. Well, they'd all been waiting for his judgment because he's the world expert. And as soon as he said, this is the problem, they all went to work, maintenance engineers, and they took this all apart. And surprise, surprise, deep inside, they found a major break that was not detectable from the outside. So they replaced it with all brand new equipment, put on all the switches, and the whole plant went back to full power. And everybody was happy. They were walking around smiling like they had eaten a banana sideways. And this went on for a week, and they were all happy because this was a big deal. And then a week later, however, they got a bill from the expert, and it said, for services rendered, $10,000. Well, the plant manager called in the chief maintenance engineer and said, look at that. Guy comes out here, stands around for 2 days, and writes 1X on one gauge and charges us $10,000. That's a lot of money. Yes, that's more than we make in a month or two. Yes, it's a lot. We should make him itemize his account in greater detail. Yes, we should do that. So the plant manager wrote back and said, dear sir, with all due respect, all you did was write 1X on one gauge. $10,000 seems like an awful lot of money for that little amount of work. Could you please give us more details? So about 10 days later, they got back a new invoice. And it said, for writing X on gauge, $1. For knowing which gauge to write the X on, $9,999. Now I call this is really important. This is life-changing. It's life-changing for me. I call this the X factor. And the X factor is another word for the focal point. is this is the critical thing that you do that accounts for all the value. And so we say here that the most important thing, the most important factor in success is clarity. And what I have found is that focal point is like a triangle. It can be one of three things or all three. And your focal point in your life can be a goal. What we know is successful people are very clear about their goals and unsuccessful people are not. And you'll be very clear about your goals in a few minutes. Second of all, it can be a measure. Do you know that in every job and in every business there is one number that is more predictive of success than any other number? And your ability to identify that number for you and your business can transform your business. And I can give you story after story. It's called the economic denominator. It's the critical number. And many people in business are actually working on the wrong number. And their businesses are in trouble and they can't solve the problems because they're focusing on the wrong X. So determining the correct X is important. I'll give you an example. I was a member of a board of directors of an organization, and they brought in a strategic planner to spend one day with the board of directors to talk about the future of the business. And you'll find in almost every business the two major concerns are sales and profitability. If it's something other than sales and profitability, then they probably need more help than they're getting. But it's always sales and profitability. So the question was, we have to increase our sales, and so the strategic planner was taking us through a variety of exercises and discussions on increasing sales. And at the end of the day, we had this plan for increasing sales. And then one of the other guys, one of the other directors, who's also a very successful businessman, said, wait a minute, I think we've gone down the wrong path. Well, everybody in the room was kind of happy that the day was over, that we concluded that we had to do all these things to increase sales. He said, I think our focal point should be profitability, not sales. And so we started to talk about that, and suddenly everybody realized he was right, is that the focal point is profitability. What if you double your sales, but you spend so much money that you lose money? That would be ridiculous. And every year, do you notice this? You read the stories of companies, they're multi-billion-dollar companies that lost $500 million last year. Have you seen that? They sold $6 or $7 or $10 billion in sales, and they lost hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, and they're in serious trouble. How on earth did they do that? How on earth did they lose so much money on so much sales? You know what? They were concentrating on the wrong number. They were spending everything, advertising, promotion, discounts, everything to increase sales, and nobody was keeping track of how much it was costing to generate that level of sales. So, focusing on the right number, and we decided then to focus on profitability, and that required revising all of our thinking to focus on the sales opportunities that represented the greatest and most predictable opportunities for profits. Anyway, so measures are really, really important. And the third part are activities. We call these key activities. And if you look at here, it says goals, measures, it says key activities. But what are the activities specifically that you need to engage in order to achieve the measures, in order to achieve the goals? And if you can be clear about your goals and how you measure them and the things you have to do, you can transform your life and your business. Lack of clarity in any one of these areas can lead to you doing more and more of the wrong things. And so you find yourself working harder and harder and getting fewer results. There's a wonderful Turkish proverb that I really like. It says, no matter how long you have been going down the wrong road, turn back. Now, isn't that a great line? No matter how long you've been going down the wrong road, turn back. Human beings have a major deficiency, and it's called the comfort zone. Is we become comfortable doing things in a certain way, and then we're very resistant to change, even if we're on the wrong road. Men especially are terrible about this. Is husband and wife are on a drive, and they're driving from San Diego to Los Angeles, 100 miles. And inland is Phoenix, Arizona. She says, honey, is Phoenix on the way to Los Angeles? And he says, no, it's the other direction. But we keep passing signs that say we're going to Phoenix. He says, never mind, we're making great time. In other words, we're making great progress even though we're on the wrong road. A lot of people are like that. They become so comfortable doing things an old way. The story of Nokia, the story of BlackBerry. They were so comfortable doing things the old way. When somebody suggested that maybe we need to change with new technology, they just sent them away. Kodak, bankrupt. One of the biggest companies in the world bankrupted themselves, and they owned digital photography, and they just discarded it because everybody was comfortable with producing film and film-based products.